FY 2024 budget process beginning. This ordinance is based upon the recommendations set forth in the proposed budget, and it would establish a public hearing at your June 15th meeting. Mayor, if it'd be appropriate, I'd like to take a couple of minutes and just highlight some things out of the budget.
Yes, sir.
So that we might, because it relates to this and the next item.
Okay.
This is the, for the budget period beginning July 1st. And as I've said before, when we go through the budget process, it represents both an opportunity to set the pattern for the next year. It represents a challenge because it doesn't matter what size your city is or what you do, you probably have to make some decisions during the budget process. One factor that I want to note that plays a role in this budget, and we'll be talking about it when we talk about our revenues. Our official population is 8,936. With the failure of the special census, that's what our number is. And yet, by all accounts, we're probably about 10 or 10,500 residents. So we're providing services for that number of people based on a revenue base of 8,936. And that shows up in several revenue sources. One of the things that the board's talked about, and I'll use Mr. Cates as an example, but the board has been active in wanting the staff to seek grants. We're in a position right now, we have the ARPA grants. There's three pools of money, if you will. It's one grant program, ARPA, American Rescue Plan, but we have three pools of money. The direct allocation that the town received, the allocation we received through TDEC of $1.5 million, and then our joint venture with the county at $593,000. So that money is provided in this budget. We also have an application pending. It's made it through the first round, a TDEC application for funding assistance to the new park. Don't know if we'll get that or not, but if we do, that money would be allocated, would be dedicated towards construction efforts to the new park. I'd like to talk for a minute about our general fund revenue, beginning with the sales tax. As you all know, Laura Hodges, our finance director, she keeps a spreadsheet for us of our sales tax receipts going back 3-4 years. Where's Laura? 3 years. By month. We have had exceptional growth in our sales tax. We've had double-digit growth in our sales tax. Reflecting on the national economy and things going on, we've only used a 4% growth for next year. Probably in many cities, 4% would be considered remarkable growth. For us, that is way down. As we go through the budget, that may be something you'll want to look at, but we used a 4% growth. On our property tax, the new total assessed valuation for within the town of Oakland is $337 million. That is up approximately 3.4% over last year. What is significant about that number, if you recall back in April, the county and all the cities in Fayette County received a letter from the comptroller's office where they were instituting a sales ratio of 0.73% on personal property and utilities within Fayette County. And so they reduced by approximately 26% the value of those properties within the city. That directly impacted our budget. We were fortunate enough that we had offsetting residential growth on real property to where we actually were still ahead. We had about $47,000 dollars in growth. We have neighboring municipalities that actually had negative growth in property tax because of that sales tax ratio. I want to talk with the board, please. The 42-cent tax rate that we have will fund the operational aspects of this budget. However, I am proposing we have an 8-cent property tax increase to take our property tax rate to 50 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. I am further proposing that the board, by resolution, dedicate that 8 cents new tax to the City Hall Police Station project. We have money proposed in this budget to begin the actual design process. That 8 cents would pay approximately half of that cost. The other half we're proposing to take out of the general fund unreserved fund balance. But if we're going to move forward with the City Hall and the police station project, we're going to have to identify revenue to do that. And so that's why I would like to put that on the table for your consideration.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
What's a penny of property tax bring in?
$33,000. $33,300.
How much is 8 cents?
$270,000. Well, yeah. 8 times 33,900, I believe is the number. I've got it right here.
I knew it was between 33 and 34.
So we need $500,000.
34 would be 252,000.
We need $500,000
Are you sure?
to fund.
A penny brings in $33,792.
33.7.
92.
I don't believe that's going to generate that kind of money.
Right, 200, be right 250,000, and then we'll take the balance out of the fund balance.
It's going to be less than that.
You can,
Probably. Well, right at that.
you can.
Okay.
273.6.
And you think for $500,000 we can finance the town hall?
No, sir. No,
$500,000 a year.
no. We can't continue to take $250,000 out of fund balance every year. What I'm trying to do is begin the process to fund it with a dedicated financing source. Because that 8 cents will grow each year, maybe not huge, but it will grow each year. A lot will depend upon the final design, the final cost estimate. But no, it'll be more than $500,000 a year for the town hall, police station. It'll be a lot more than that. One other thing I'm proposing in this budget, I'm proposing a 3.5% across the board adjustment in our employee-based salaries. Many of the cities around us are doing more than that, but we're proposing at this point 3.5%. We have also
Cost of living? Is that compared to cost of living?
I'm not using that.
Nationally?
I'm not using that term, sir, because cost of living is actually above that.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, I'm just calling it, cost of living, I think, is last number I saw was about 6 or 6.5. But, I'm just calling it an across-the-board adjustment. The other thing that is included in this budget, the city's share of the employee health insurance is going up 7.5%. That is actually a pretty good number compared to what this town and other towns have paid in the last couple of years. But the information from Blue Cross Blue Shield was 7.5%. And as you all know, that's through the state of Tennessee, the plan through the state.
When you said that, I just have a question about that. So
Okay.
you said that the city's share, so if an employee has family, is their share going up the same amount?
We're going to present a proposal to you to do that, yes, sir. That would be at your next meeting.
So they're gonna lose money at 3.5%?
Yeah.
No, careful. It would be 7.5% of what level of deduction they have, depending upon what coverage plan you have. It's not a lump sum for all employees for everything. It's employee plus one, employee family. There's a couple
It's
of
a different
levels.
tier system.
Yeah, I understand
Okay.
that. I would like to know, though, if we're discussing employees' pay, how much are they gonna be faced with an increase?
We'll have
Because
that.
The majority of people have families.
We'll,
right?
yes, I don't know exactly what the percentage would be, but the majority, yes.
Well, it'd be easy to tell. I mean,
Oh, we'll have that for you.
How
I don't
many
have it tonight.
You know how many employees we have that's here, that their spouses work and have insurance, that we're not having to pay here?
I couldn't answer that tonight. I really couldn't.
Could you give us that when we start
Yes.
on the budget?
Oh, yes. No names. Just, no names, just employees.
Yeah, no, there don't have to be any name.
I don't know if that makes sense. Why would you care what, somebody's spouse insurance is covering on them? That makes no sense. We have no concern of what their spouses are doing. We only have concern of what we're doing with our own employees. And if they themselves wanna get a family plan, that's on them.
I
we
think
have-
the question
it's
he,
the law. It's the law.
But we have no business,
They have to sign a document.
I understand that, but we have no business asking somebody about
If
their
I-
wife's insurance.
If I was an employee with, yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
If
No,
I
we
was an
don't.
employee with the town of Oakland, they're gonna give me a piece of paper and they're gonna say, do you have a dependent on this plan? Is she employed elsewhere? Do they offer health insurance? That's questions you have to answer.
And
And so
why,
it is the town's business what that is.
and why do we care that they
It's a
have
law.
insurance?
It's a law.
Okay, so it's a law that they make, that we ask their insurance company.
It's a law that they can't get insurance somewhere else if they're able to get it at their place of employment.
Or to carry that a step forward, you can't have dual coverage.
how about the question, how about we just ask, how many of our employees are taking advantage of our health benefits?
I can provide that
That's,
information.
that's a better question.
All but one, probably.
I don't wanna know the names of them, I could care less who it is, I was just curious how many we had,
I'll tell you something else.
cause we run into this a few years ago
If
too.
you've got an employee that's on Social Security, I don't know if y'all know this, not young people, but Social Security, the Medicare is not free. So based on what your Social Security benefits is, it controls your insurance of how much that is. So they take that directly out. And if you're still gainfully employed, Social Security, Medicare will not be your primary coverage if you're still an employee somewhere else.
I can elaborate on that if you'd like.
I can do better than him.
And I can beat both of them.
Because I always thought that was free.
It's not either.
I
No,
thought it was
no,
free.
no,
Nothing.
no.
I thought when you got to be that age, they just paid everything.
And the medical provider asked real quick, which is primary coverage.
That's right, what's secondary?
And then the next thing I gotta ask you, what your supplement is, what is it? Is it plan blank, blank, blank? And depending on that letter, that's how much attention they're gonna pay you.
But I'll agree with you on one thing, Jeff. They make you ask too many questions.
Well, they're gonna find out when they try to submit claim from here and a claim from there. Somebody's going to jail. So that's on, everything is on them. It's on the employee to do the right thing on the insurance policies, wherever it comes from.
But
I mean, we're getting involved in their, oh, where's your insurance from? And that's not our.
No, we don't ask that,
don't
nobody.
ask
Don't
that.
ask
We
that.
there are certain questions by law we have to ask
That's
those.
those
I'm not
important
asking
questions.
who's the insurance is with, I could care less.
It's not, okay, their jobs, if they get in jobs, yes, you're asking to where their insurance come from. Your insurance come from somewhere? Yes, come from my wife's, okay. What company she's got, okay, good. That's all they care about. They don't care who the name is or anything, they just don't care.
Okay. You wanna go on, Mr. Fisher?
yes.
Mr. Sutton? Mr. Sutton, Mr. Fisher? Mr. Johnson, would you like to go on a little bit?
He could too, yeah.
That's why I'm on Social Security. What I said.
Amen. Get
I
on.
am asking the council, the Board of Aldermen, to approve 2 new positions in the budget. One is a police officer, and one would be an equipment operator in the Public Works Department. We're also asking for 2 part-time seasonal employees in the Public Works Department as maintenance workers. We are also proposing that an existing half-time position in finance and administration not be refunded for next year. So we're adding 2 part-time and cutting 1,
Which one you cutting?
the one in finance. Real quickly to throw some numbers out, general fund revenues are, and this is the proposed budget, recognizing we'll make some recommendations for refinement, I'm sure you all will too.
Oh, yeah.
But it'd be 7.39 million, in revenues. That would be 24% of our general fund total revenue would be property tax collections. The local sales tax revenue would be 37% of our general fund revenues. So 2 sources of revenue make up over 50% of our total budget.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
What's the number of sales tax? How much money is that? We got a $7.5 million budget, correct?
Local option sales tax, for general fund budget is 2.69.
Okay.
Is that including the 200,000 from the half cent?
No,
Is
that-
back to the general fund?
That comes back to the general, the sales tax for the park goes directly to that special revenue fund, and then 200,000 comes back to the general fund.
Transfers?
And that, for accounting purposes, that's a transfer.
Okay.
General fund revenues are 7.78 million. That's actually down slightly because we had several large capital projects. You take that out of the mix and the budgets are very comparable. One thing I always like to do, there's a couple of days in there where I have to make some decisions, or we have to make some decisions on things that don't get included in the budget. This year, we've talked about it, a comprehensive plan update. This city desperately needs a comprehensive plan update. The one we have now is 25 years old. Comprehensive plan. To get a good comprehensive plan is probably $90,000 to $120,000. I just could not include that in this year's budget. The fire department asked for 3 new firefighters effective next spring. That's not in the budget. The fire department asked for a replacement brush truck for one that's 20-plus years old. That's not in the budget. We had also talked about putting some kind of small pavilion or something and adding landscaping at Northwoods Park. That's not in the budget. So there were several things that were taken out. You have all of the special, everything I've talked about so far has been general fund. We have all the special funds, the water and wastewater and the utility fund, solid waste fund, which obviously is going to generate a lot of discussion this year. State street aid, drug fund, fire fee fund, and the park fund. That is a very, very brief highlight. 2 or 3 other points I'd like to make, because I know this comes up every year. There were 3 projects that were authorized, budgeted this year, that for various reasons we did not accomplish. One was a vehicle for the planning department, one was an emergency generator for this building and the fire station, and one was the parking lot at Oakland Park. That money, as of June 30th, will revert to the general fund. We are proposing that that money be reallocated in this budget. Also, as just discussed a moment ago, we're proposing the $250,000 drawdown from the general fund unassigned balance to pay roughly half the cost of the City Hall Police Station design. That would be a one-time drawdown. And I also provided tonight for you, there's a page on the podium, our unassigned, unreserved fund balance as of June 30th was its audited number, June 30th, 2022, which is an estimated number, and the anticipated number for June 30th, 2023. As you can see, over the past 2-3 years, the fund balance has remained very stable. It's actually grown slightly. But we're in the $5.5 million range. if we maintain a fund balance of 20% as an emergency reserve plus 1/12 for cash flow, that would be 2.5 to 3 million. So we're in a very good position financially on our fund balance in the general fund. Mr. Mayor, that's a very brief summary. To talk logistics for just a moment, or schedule, if the public hearing on the budget is going to be at your June regular meeting, we need to adopt this ordinance and the next ordinance on first reading so we can get the public notice published. If the board is not comfortable with adopting these ordinances tonight, because you have not had an opportunity yet for a budget work session, that would necessitate a new special meeting in the next 2 weeks so that we can get the public notices published.
So, Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. J. So you're saying that, because I know that a lot of times you pass it on first reading, even though we don't like a lot of things that's always in these first readings, it's just so we can get forward to the public hearing.
Yes.
So when we get to the public hearing, that's considered second reading.
That's, well, but
Right.
it's quite, two things if I may. It is quite common that a lot of amendments will be made on second reading. And if you remember, I built into our schedule a special meeting on June 22nd. And it's to your point, Ms. Hummel, that if we make a lot of changes at second reading, then you would have a second reading a week later with all the numbers cleaned up.
Okay, gotcha.
Then if that don't work, you get a second
Second.
reading.
Okay, and here's the, yes, sir, you're right, but here's the challenge on that. That second meeting, if we stayed on Thursday, is June 29th. So, but that's possible. There's been lots of times I've adopted a budget on June 30th, June 29th and June 30th, but that's what,
And then June 29th could actually be the
final,
final public hearing, right?
yes.
And we would have adequate time each time we do a second in order to get it properly published in the newspaper. Because if I stand, and anyone can correct me please, but if my memory serves me right, last year, I remember when the board went into their things, we had an issue what was published and people could pick up. Then we never got it, the corrections that we made never got republished so that the people could see what we
The 10 days refers to the first public hearing. A lot of times what a board will do is they will continue the public hearing.
Oh, so it's a continuance of that.
Because you know, if you, and we can do, any way the board wants to do it, we can do another 10-day public notice. Our challenge is the publication date of the newspaper actually adds to that 10-day period.
Right.
But if we pass this tonight on the first reading, we can make all the changes we want or discuss changes that we want, and we can have this on the second reading and approved on June 15th.
Theoretically, yes, sir.
And if we have to
Theoretically.
continue it or have the second reading, we still have time to do that for the 22nd. Have time to do that.
And just to be clear, passing the budget on the first reading, we still can change it, but we're establishing a date for the public hearing.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. And to your point, that public notice that we do will have numbers in it. It will have a summary of what's in the budget.
Right. First though, the first one was
Yes.
like what you got.
Yes.
Published going there, and then we come in and we can modify and do everything for, at the, on the 15th, and if we need to go to the 22nd, we can do that, and worst comes to worst, we could go to the 29th, worst case scenario. Or,
Seems like we're putting the cart before the horse, because we hadn't even discussed anything in the budget yet, so how you gonna sit here and pass the first reading on it?
well, I think that's just typical, I think. I've seen the board when I sat out in the audience before, to get anything we had to do. I remember I've heard when Alderman Sutton was vice chairman, he would say the same thing. Well, we gotta pass this thing so we can hear it at the next meeting, because we can't really hear it today.
If you don't
No.
get it started, you're gonna be behind.
You're gonna
and
be
You're gonna be
behind.
operating on last year's fund.
Exactly.
We've had a quirk of the calendar, I think, because the June meeting comes so early, the 15th, to get the public hearing notice in, even next week is too late to get the publication date and the 10-day notice.
Well, that's something we should have looked at in our charter. If we're putting ourselves at risk that tight, then our charter needs to be changed.
You have to up that date from the May date of getting the budget to, I'm not sure, I think we can do to April. I think that would be good. But we
I think
didn't have time to do that this year, not really, I don't think.
I think the new vice mayor brought this up in February or March of this year. Can't remember. Somebody'd have to check the minutes on that.
Well, it happened.
A challenge you'll have, we were using, for the most part of the budget preparation, we were using the March revenue expenditure reports. If you move it up too much, you're going to be using February revenue and expenditure reports. Your numbers just won't be as accurate as they might be. Now, you can obviously change them as you go through the process, which we'll still be doing. But you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. As a small city, I mean, $100,000 makes a difference in our budget.
I don't have my calendar in front of me. How many workshops do we have between now and June 15th? Just to work on the budget?
I was going, I have a sheet I was going to present to you. I was proposing we have one next Tuesday night, and then at that time, schedule the ones we wanted after that. I know some of you are going to be out of town, so I didn't want to actually post any dates other than next Tuesday night right now.
That would be the 20th you're talking about?
No, next Tuesday night, 30th.
No, next Thursday.
No, next Tuesday.
Tuesday, which is the
30th at 7
which is June the
That'd be May.
27th?
No, we're still in May. We're still in May.
Next
I'm looking at
Tuesday's May.
June.
No, next Tuesday is,
May 30th.
the 30th, May 30th.
Got it. I got that written down. I've already got budget written
That's
on that.
at 7 o'clock?
I got, I don't have the time, but I got June the 30th, May the 30th budget.
What
So
time?
I know
We
I
had
wrote that
talked
down.
about that. We had
Just
talked
no
about
5
that.
o'clock.
What time?
No,
Four-
he said no
4:30.
time.
7 p.m.
Okay.
Casey gets another tractor stuck.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2311.
I so move and make that motion, do that so we
I
can,
have a motion from Ms. Hummel. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed?
Against
Me.
my better judgment, I'll vote yes.
Okay, you're opposing, Mr. Fisher.
I am.
Mr. Fisher opposes, Ms. Vaughn.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. Need a motion to hear ordinance 2312, establishing the municipal tax levy for the town of Oakland, establishing a public hearing date of June 15, 2003. Have a motion to hear.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Sutton. Mr. J.
This proposed ordinance has established the tax rate for fiscal '24 as .5012 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. That is an increase of 8 cents from the current tax rate.
So this is when you're talking about moving it up to 8 cents, right?
Yes, ma'am.
If it's my understanding, reading the Fayette Falcon, did I understand right that I read in the Fayette Falcon that Rossville's going up to $1?
They already a
They
dollar.
raised theirs
They
12
went-
cents.
They what?
They raised theirs 12 cents 2 weeks ago,
12 cents.
and it was already $1.47.
Yeah,
And then so they, so add 12 cents or more to that then, right?
$1.47 plus 12, $1.59.
Do we know if Piperton's raising their sales tax?
They are talking
I'm
about
sorry,
it.
their property tax?
Have they actually done it
I
yet?
don't know about Piper.
He indicated that he was going to.
Yes. he
But
was
we
going-
don't know how much?
Not yet, but it's going to be substantial, he said.
Now, our tax year
That's
runs from
hearsay,
what,
as they would say in
what month to
court.
what month? Like, it's not a calendar fiscal year, is it? A calendar year?
It's
Are we in-
fiscal
July 1
year.
to June 30.
I beg your pardon?
July
July 1
1st.
to June 30.
It's our fiscal year.
That's what I was asking, thank you.
Will this be discussed in the budget before it's passed for sure?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Can you amend that
Yes.
both ways?
Yes, now, I'll defer to the attorney, but I would think if you went up, you'd have to re-advertise.
After what?
That is correct.
If you went up, you'd what?
If you go up beyond the 8 cents, you have to re-advertise.
Because you've already published this, is that what
8
it
cents
is?
gonna get plenty of people in here.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all get to get some real pressure.
You figure see what hanging looks like.
Well, we're gonna get the services we pay for, folks.
Have to get what you pay for, is what I say.
Okay,
The next, Mr. Mayor, the next item is related to this, if you've read ahead.
okay, do we need to do something with 2312 here right now?
If we're going to do the advertisement, yes, sir.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the first reading of 2312?
Well, if nobody else is gonna do it, I'll step forward and do it. I'm not bashful, because we gotta hear it anyway, and we're gonna get a lot of people in here. So I'll make the motion that we get forth for the thing now.
Have a motion to approve this first reading of 2312. Do I have a second? Extremely interesting.
And this will directly, well, you would need a resolution. But the proposal is, this is what's gonna fund the new town hall and police station.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, and what we're going through right now, and a lack of emotion, we have to set it. So if somebody wants to make another motion and set the tax rate at another rate, then they're welcome to do so. We're gonna have to set a tax rate. Whether you go up, leave it the same, or lower it, you're gonna have to set one by law.
Mr.
So,
Sutton,
We
Ms.
can't
Sutton's
not
correct.
set one.
That's
So-
exactly right.
So if Ms. Hummel, I assume, was making a motion to approve on the first reading, the 8 cent increase. Nobody has seconded that motion, is that correct?
That is correct.
The motion fails for lack of a second. Does anybody else wanna make another motion?
Well,
Just a minute.
the chair would have to declare that,
Just a
Ms.
minute.
Hummel.
I want to make sure everybody fully understands what they're doing. Motion fails. Do I have another motion?
Well, I just, and here's what we're looking at. And Vice Mayor Wiggins said it a few months ago about getting stuff in timely manners. And I realized that, and I wanna say Ms. Hummel did nothing wrong, because nothing would have been done on her motion, okay? That would have passed nothing. So she didn't vote for a tax increase.
That's
I'm gonna
correct.
make that clear.
Thank you.
Okay, so, but here's what I'm looking at, and I've stood this stance. I cannot vote on something until I know we gotta have it. Until we go through this budget and make cuts and do what we need to do, I don't know if we need a tax increase, and I am not gonna raise people's taxes until I know we need it. And we're spending every dollar wisely already. And I'm somebody that I don't beat around the bush much and ain't trying to upset employees. But when we're sitting over here with the lack of stuff going on, we hired temporary help, we turned it into full-time help, it was supposed to be here and now it's over there, and our numbers have failed through the roof. I was the proponent of not hiring an inspector right now, because I knew times were gonna be tough. And I knew our numbers, we weren't gonna need it, and I wanted to hire them outdone by the job, if everybody remembers. Didn't wanna fill that slot. Now we've got it filled and don't have near the work than when we made that, and it was just a short time and numbers started falling. And if you look at by the month what they were doing, falling, there's no reason for us to have some full-time positions in certain areas right now. Now, when's that gonna change? I don't know. But I can tell you this, having more people over there with less numbers, to me, is not smart business. I can tell you in the private sector, we'd be cutting right now, and we are. And so, I just can't do it without knowing the numbers. I can't do it.
May I say one thing related to building and codes? One of the other things I've heard from this board in years past that I'm not hearing now is about turnaround time. When I came there were complaints that we were not making timely inspections. We're not hearing that now, or at least I'm not. So in some instances, there are trade-offs. Now, I agree, our building permits are down, no question about it. And if you read in the budget message, we made that point. Our revenues related to building for next year, we've been extremely conservative.
Well, you need to be because your revenues are gonna be extremely conservative.
That's what I said.
Well, but revenues are gonna be down this year from the prior years.
They're down, but they're not down that much for this year, but the trend is down. At the same time, if you drive around town, we've got almost 500 lots in some active stage of grading, site prep, right now. Maybe there's gonna be a lot of vacant subdivision lots sitting there, but there is a lot of dirt still being moved in Oakland. There are still investments being made in Oakland in subdivision development.
Well, there ain't near as many hammers flying.
Well, and again, you're correct on one thing, there's not been any subdivisions come through the planning commission in the last 2
How many
months.
building permits we pulled this month?
We got a phase coming this month. We get
How many? 27.
What about last month?
Y'all got 16, 18.
So they went through the same thing in 2008, and you had a lot of houses and lots sitting for 6 years, 5 years.
Well, it's not just that. We hit a economic downturn. Our sales tax revenue that's in this budget is not gonna hit those numbers. And inflation keeps going up. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. We need more revenue, but it's not coming.
I tell you, I think our revenue's gonna be down, but I'm not as pessimistic. And I'll give you 3 reasons. Walmart, Kroger, and Walgreens. Oakland has the only location for a number of national chains in all of Fayette County.
I agree with that, but the state passed, coming up this fall, we got 3 months. We have 25% of the year where we can collect no sales tax on food. And Walmart and Kroger sell an awful lot of
They
food.
sell an awful lot of food. But now the state holds us harmless.
Okay, so we still get ours.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, it's based on a pro rata percentage or whatever, not actual sales and all that, I think.
That makes me feel a lot better.
So
But-
we get ours, but the state
Doesn't-
doesn't get theirs.
Right.
And theirs that come back down to us is less.
You're correct.
So it does hurt us in the long run.
Okay, do I have another motion?
What's the procedure for this that we have to follow? What's
If-
the time frame?
We actually have a little more time on the property tax rate than we do the budget. You're correct.
You just have to pass the property tax rate when you pass a budget, is that not correct?
By July 1,
Well, yeah, you
Well,
could have
when
the
you
first
pass the
reading
budget.
then,
right.
and then that could be later on, is my understanding.
But we still have to have the public notice
But I
period.
think the law says that you have to set a property tax rate at the time you pass a budget. I believe is what it is, so I don't think this is in as near
What about
dire
it?
straits as the other.
What about Tom? Mr.
I
Mike?
mean, you can't know what your budget revenue is gonna be unless you know what your property tax rate is gonna be.
Mr. Sutton?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Sutton,
So-
go back for a moment. If you approve a tax rate tonight, whatever the number, we will advertise it in next week's edition of the Fayette Falcon, which will be dated the 31st. 30th. Okay. We have to give 10 days notice on the public hearing. That's the June 15th meeting. If we wait to June 15th to set a public hearing date on the property tax rate, it would be the next week for the newspaper, and 10 days thereafter, we're back to the last week in June again. It will work, but you're losing your calendar.
So if we pass, if we pass our budget on the meeting on June the 15th, that night we have to set our property tax rate. And you need at least 10 days before that to advertise in the paper.
Yes.
It's 25.
25th.
But on the other hand, if you go through the budget and you determine you need 2 police officers, and you need 2 firemen, and you need an equipment operator, and you need this,
And a brush truck.
and so then you're looking at possibly not having the revenues if you didn't raise it higher, and then you're gonna have to go through the advertising process again. So,
And get hung
until you
twice.
know the numbers, how can you know what revenues you need until you go through and make your cuts or your additions to the budget? To incite a mob of people when you're not sure. The number one thing everybody said when they come through that door and they was in the hall and they was hollering outside and everything else is, what's the plan? Tell me your plan. If you're gonna raise and tell me your plan.
I was one of those people and there was no plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
may I be very blunt on something?
I wish you would.
I would ask each one of those people, and I'm serious about this, I would ask each one of those people that stand up and say I'm against a property tax increase, I would ask, did they respond to the special census? Only 69% of the households in this city responded. We had 31% that did not. As we've talked repeatedly, that was worth $165 a person, I believe.
Right, 165.
People do not trust government.
No, and I agree with that, sir. I knocked on doors. I heard that loud and
People
clear.
don't trust government.
And yet, we left as much money on the table on the special census as we're talking about with this 8-cent property tax increase.
On the 69% that responded, how many residents did that give us?
It was, I'd have to go back and look
2.15.
exactly, but 7,600,
Times 2.15. No matter what, it's 2.5.
7,600, you said?
I believe that's the number.
You know, I understand people don't trust government, but we're just talking about census data. We're talking about your name and address. I mean, your house number's on the door.
Mr. Sutton, we ran it out based upon the 69% response rate we had, people per household. I remember this number well. We projected out 10,534. That's about 1,600 people more than our official population.
Times 169.
We left a lot of money on the table, and I'll take part of the blame for that too.
And that ain't
But-
counting what we paid for the census.
Well, because the census failed, we actually didn't pay as much as we budgeted because it wasn't certified.
Wasn't submitted. Wasn't submitted,
It wasn't submitted.
correct.
See, that was 10 cents ahead to certify the census, and that wasn't done. We spent 20-some odd thousand. I don't remember the exact number, but 20-some odd thousand.
Must have been about 7268 that reported in.
Okay.
69% of 10,534, 7260.
I remember that number.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Johnson, where are we at if the board does not wish to approve this agenda or motion tonight? What do we do next?
I think you have two options. One would be between now and June 15th, schedule a special meeting, have first reading on this ordinance so we can get it advertised. The second one, as Mr. Sutton said, is wait till June 15th, and then set the property tax rate, run the notice, and you're probably looking at a public meeting, a special meeting, a public hearing the last week in June.
Well, if that's the way you could do it, there's a third option too. And I'll make a motion to keep the property tax rate the same right now.
Don't we have a workshop on the 8th?
Hold up. I got a motion for Mr. Sutton, keep the property tax at this current rate. Do I have a second?
No, what his motion is.
I'll second.
I have a second for Mr. Wiggins. All in favor? and I'm gonna
Mr.
do a
Mayor,
roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Does that qualify as setting the property tax rate by ordinance?
On a first reading.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just,
And then if you made an amendment for it to go up, you would have to start the advertising process over
Yes.
again.
yes,
But for only one meeting though, not two.
that's correct.
Okay. All right, we got a motion here, guys. It's legal. I have a motion. I have a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Sutton.
I think you should go in alphabetical order, Mayor.
All right, if you want me to go
No,
in
cause you wanna be
alphabetical order.
last.
I made the motion. It should be in alphabetical order.
Okay. Miss,
If I pass, could it come back around to me?
No, that would be Mr. Cates goes first.
Yeah,
Alright, I'm asking a question, don't you? If I pass.
yes,
You
I
already
vote,
know
come
how
back
the
to me.
last two's gonna vote in alphabetical order. They
It
made
doesn't
the
matter,
motion.
it's
Okay.
my right to pass.
hold up, please.
I said yes, I vote for it.
This is a meeting, not a work session. Mr. Cates voted yes. Ms. Hummel, I believe you are next.
No, I'm a no.
I have a no. Mr. Fisher.
No.
Mr. Wiggins.
Mr. Sutton.
Mr. Sutton.
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins.
Yes.
Vote is 3-2 in favor of setting the rate at the current rate, Mr. Johnson, on first reading. All
Thank
right,
you.
moving on.
So now when's the, second reading?
June 15th?
That's when it can be said if we have a workshop on the budget.
And if we, and just to clarify the point, if we decide to change that rate, then
Right.
June 15th would be the new first reading, and we would still have time to pass it on a second reading before July 1st. Is that correct?
That has all been established, yes. Okay, we're moving on. Have a motion to hear Resolution 2357, assigning a specific portion of property tax revenue for Town Hall Police Department.
Mr. Mayor,
We
that,
need to defer that,
that needs to be withdrawn.
withdrawn, okay?
Well, we can still allocate the fund, well,
Do we need to, do we have to have a vote to withdraw it, or can I just withdraw it? We'll withdraw Resolution 2357 at this time, ladies and gentlemen. Resolution 2358, need a motion to hear authorizing fiscal year 2023 street paving project, budget bid project, package number 2.
motion to hear.
Have a motion from Mr. Wiggins. Mr. Johnson.
This authorizes a street paving program. You have a list of the streets. And my request to Mr. Ellis, as we put this together, based upon our budget, was approximately $300,000. So that's how this bid package was determined. All of these streets are on your list that you approved earlier this year.
Is this for the spring or the fall one?
This is for, now. This would be bid, I think,
It would, the work would be done in the fall. Is that correct?
No, work will be done. We're looking at June 22nd.
Tonight, yes, the proposed start of construction after bid would be, around July 17th and end up, after giving them 70 days, September the 25th would be the end date. Hopefully beat the weather.
This would be on award for your June 22nd meeting.
Why are we removing White Pine Place?
To stay within the $300,000 budget.
Okay.
And this does include previous sections that were removed.
It does include that?
Yes, sir.
So this is basically what the board asked for.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve Resolution 2258. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Cates. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mr. Harvey, you can get started paving streets. All right. Need a motion to hear Resolution 2359, establishing a fee for state townwide yard sale, Parks and Recreation Department.
Motion to hear.
Have a motion from Mr. Wiggins. Mr. Johnson.
I understand for many years, the Parks and Rec Department has sponsored a townwide garage sale at a fee of $10, which covers some advertising, some signage, things like that. It was pointed out, we can find no reference to where that fee was ever approved. And so that's why there's a resolution on your board agenda tonight.
How much is the fee if a resident just wants to have a yard sale? What's the fee for the permit for that?
Nothing.
Get 3 stickers on 3 signs is all you allow.
How many you get if you do it
So
on your
if
own?
You said 3.
so if we do a $10 fee, this will help, this is kind of a fundraising mechanism to help the Parks and Rec, but it puts advertising out for the whole town. You get more than 3 signs, and you get all that for only $10. Is that correct?
The $10 is really to defer our cost of advertising and signage and all. I'm not gonna say we probably don't make a little money, but it's not really to promote money, it's to promote a town-wide event.
What's the cost of that being? What cost did we incur? How much?
Advertising,
For the whole thing.
How much?
What?
And how much is that?
That's
My
20 people.
stance on this is the same way as it was for the shredder. How in the world does it fall into park and recreation? I mean, they have enough to do, trying to get sports and stuff with the seniors, and we're gonna get them involved in yard sales and signs and.
Well, it's a town event.
Mr. Sutton, in
It's a
the
town
last 2 weeks, I've had probably 20 calls from people asking when the townwide garage sale's gonna be.
That's $200. That'll pay for the ad.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there are people out there that want to participate in this event, whatever it is.
Mr. J, I saw through my Facebook feed where the ad came through, or if you want to call it an ad, notice about it, and the ad said, or already declared it was $10. And the Facebook notice also said that it was on June the 17th, not June the 10th that's listed in this email that I got.
It's
in my
all over
packet.
Facebook, you're right.
It's June 17th.
I can tell you that hesitation, I was told June 10th.
Well, that would be great for me, because I'm getting married on the 17th, and I
But,
sure
uh,
want to eat this yard sale. That would be great.
The other point,
All right,
Mr. Mayor,
let's get back to the point here, folks. Mr. Johnson,
you know, I don't know what, I am told that we've been doing this townwide yard sale for many years, and we've been charging $10 for many years. I can truly tell you, from the perspective of my office, it doesn't matter whether we charge $10 or whether it's free. I don't disagree with Mr. Sutton. I don't know why Parks and Recreation is coordinating it. But the bottom line is, we have been, it's been proposed for this year. The question I had was, if there was a fee being charged, there need to be a basis for
I
it.
got a question.
it's back to a meeting. We're at a meeting.
So,
Come on.
Can I have permission to speak?
I recognize you, and then I'll recognize Mr. Cates.
I think the reason it's fallen under the Parks and Recs is because it's a community townwide event. However, for a regular yard sale, you don't go to Parks and Rec, you go to code enforcement. So, should this continue to be through Parks and Rec, or should this go through code enforcement? I don't really care one way or the other, I'm just asking a question.
All right? Mr. Cates.
my question goes along with what he's saying, I guess, is if we charge $10 a piece for that, and the cost don't come up to that, we're not allowed to make a profit on that, are we, Mr. Mine?
No, but if you get into I'm sorry, sir, but if you get into covering our staff cost, our time, like I said, I personally fielded probably 18 or 20 calls on this.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying we need to keep a record on that, what we spend and what we take in this year, to not make that mistake of making a profit on this.
You know, one option is to cancel it. Why are we doing this? If it's a concern, let's don't do it.
I ain't got anything against doing it, we just want to make sure we're doing it the right way. I have no objection whatsoever for the yard sale, I think it's good for the town.
Well, I know, I see advertised all the time each year where the Fair Oaks subdivision, they do their own
Yep.
community
Mayor.
yard sale that they advertise for.
All right.
I'm sorry, sir.
I don't have a problem with a townwide yard sale. Now that I'm thinking about it sitting here, it puts everybody on the town. It's, you know, when you gotta go to codes and you gotta put 3 signs out, somebody's gotta go check those. This is just for one person doing a yard sale. You know, I don't know, I'm assuming that a patrolman will drive by that address a time or two, maybe during the day, just to make sure nobody's fighting over a $12 piece of clothing or something. I got no problem keeping this within the Parks and Rec Department, and I have no problem with the nominal fee. I don't think we're gonna make a profit on this. Like the town manager said, if we come out a little bit of money over, that just goes into the budget to account for the time and the effort and the checking up on. Plus, it is good advertising. You get everybody that wants to have a yard sale doing it on the same day. You get everybody who's looking for stuff like that coming to Oakland and going to multiple places on the same day.
Mr. Wiggins, are you making a motion?
I don't know about that, Mayor.
I have a
Mr.
question.
All right, Mr. Sutton, and then I'll get Ms. Hummer.
Did we not put money in the budget for marketing on the town?
Yes.
We haven't passed.
I mean, right now.
I honestly don't remember.
Can I ask a
Wouldn't that
question?
be marketing our town?
Because
Not,
you guys are talking,
in all respects, sir, not in my opinion, no, sir.
You're talking about bringing people in from out of town to see your town and shop.
And if we make extra money, it could go into that marketing budget.
7,500 in public relations development.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a work session. I need you to get to order.
So.
We have Mr. Sutton has the floor, nobody else.
So there's $7,000 in public relations. Does the board feel like this is a park and rec activity or more public relations? That's the question. And because this money has to come from somewhere.
All right? Ms. Hummer?
Is the date, if we agree to it, is it gonna be the 10th or the 17th? We have,
We have it set for the 17th, but if I can, we've had one person come in and sign up.
we've had
As
one,
far as I know, we've had one person come in and sign up for it.
All right, so it's the 10th, that answers your question. Mr. Fisher?
so is it the 10th?
17th.
See, now he's saying the 17th, you saying the 10th.
We
need
have-
at
we
least
have
one
it
date.
advertised for the 17th.
All right, I think first off, we're putting the cart before the horse. We need to decide if we're gonna do it or not. If we're not gonna do it, then the date doesn't matter.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Fisher, you through?
Yeah, I'm definitely through.
Okay, now then, somebody needs to give me a motion, let's do something, give me something here.
I'm thinking.
If only one person has signed up for it, let's kill it.
Well, people
Get a
procrastinate.
motion, we gonna get it.
People procrastinate. You know what? I'll make a motion to approve it. If nobody,
I have a motion for Mr. Wiggins to approve, do I have a second?
I second it, cause I need to get rid of some junk.
Have a second for Ms. Hummer. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
I didn't hear but 3 ayes. Mr. Gates?
No.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
Okay, I have 4 yeses and 1 no. Mrs. Bond, we're having a sale on the 17th with a $10 fee. Oh, boy, y'all working me tonight.
This is supposed to be an easy meeting, Mayor.
I just thought it would've been better if we would've paid for it out of our public relations fund and not charged anybody.
That's the reason I voted against it too.
All right.
But people can still participate, that needs to be made clear, and they don't have to pay a dime. If they don't want to be in the paper as advertised, and they don't want a free sign, they can still participate for free. And that needs to be advertised wherever they're advertising the $10 fee.
A lot of people will do that,
They will.
Mr. Sutton. as we
You
both
don't
know
have to
they do it
tell 'em.
now, yeah, But you're right.
You don't have to tell them, they'll do it.
All right. Moving down, other business items for consideration. Authorization of additional work for the town hall. Is this, I gotta ask for a motion on this to hear, Mr. Sutton, Mr. Johnson?
I don't think so. It's just, this is a business item. but-
Okay. All right, authorizing additional work for this town hall police department building through Fleming Architect for schematic site grading and planning design. Mr. J.
Fleming Architects, who is the architect of record for the schematic design of the new town hall police station, have requested that they be authorized to retain Fisher and Arnold to do, as the mayor said, some layout survey data, grading a drainage plan for Site A, Option D. Given the earlier discussion, we may want to defer this item to a future meeting.
Did we decide on that option D? it was presented. I
I
don't remember.
thought, I could be correct, I thought there was a vote. I thought there was a vote Thursday night.
Okay.
Yeah, we told her to go to work on it.
Yeah,
I sent her an email Friday morning saying D.
yeah, that's what it was.
Why would we defer this?
Wow.
It's additional cost to her contract, and are we moving forward or not?
How much?
$11,600.
It's still cheaper than moving that crew.
Okay. I have a motion.
Wait,
All right, Ms. Homer, you have a question?
yes,
You have
yes,
the
sir.
floor.
Yes, sir, I do. So, because she developed us a D example that we like, all the work that she put into that, is that what this covers? Her
No, this
development D?
takes it the next step.
So now we got with D, this takes us now, we know where we're going, we know how it's gonna be laid out, now we go to the next step.
Yes,
Which we gotta do in order to keep going, right?
Yes.
yes,
Keep on moving on, right?
yes.
And so, Mr. Mayor, looking for a motion for what now?
I'm looking for a motion to pay $11,600 to do the schematic site grading and drainage plan.
Which we gotta have, right?
We gotta have.
Well, if you want a town hall, you gotta have it.
If you're gonna do this next step, this is the next step toward a town hall.
Here I go. I'll make a motion that we do this and approve it, so we can get forward. That, I think, we, yes,
Made a motion to approve the schematic site grading and drainage plan. Do I have a second?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir, you can.
Is this coming out of the current? It's not
Coming out
coming
of
out of
park
next year's
fund.
budget.
Well, yes, it'll come out of this year's budget.
Do we have the money?
It'll take a budget amendment. This is in addition to her fee. This is the next work item in her fee. Her fee was 1,000 or 30,500. This is the next.
We're a month away from the end of the year. I'm asking a simple question. Do we have money in the budget to pay for this if we approve it?
It would be professional services. The answer is yes.
Okay.
That challenge will,
Okay.
that challenge will be though, sir, all purchase orders, I'll say expire, what's the word? They become null and void. As of June 30th, it will have to be reissued for budget, so this would become rollover money that I talked about earlier.
which I understand. I got my hand raised, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am, go
All right.
ahead.
But actually, we've done this before.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if, again, one of the things we've got to do in the next 30 days is identify how City Hall and police station. I mean, we can cover $11,600, but then the next step and the next step. And the architect's fee for the City Hall police station is probably going to be $800,000 or $900,000 to design it. I gave you that information. At some point,
At some point, this building getting the money for it. And it ain't gonna be tonight.
no, and it doesn't need to be tonight, but
I have a motion for 11,000.
11,600.
Do I have a motion, do I have a?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Sutton.
Did we ever determine if drug fund money can be spent on capital outlay projects?
I don't know, to answer your larger question, the practice here in Oakland is be spent it on law enforcement related expenditures.
Oh, isn't
Well,
the
that includes
station?
capital.
Through the capital outlay on the police station, yes.
Also, you have, is gonna be in this building. And for instance, if you're the town manager and 20% of your duties are to water, then water can pay 20% of your salary. Likewise, this building, same way.
We have currently $36,000 a year coming from the water and sewer fund back to the general fund. Yes, that could be increased, but we have that now.
But what I'm saying is that would be how you could get money from another department, you just can't let whole thing, or,
Right.
but there's percentages of money and other funds that we could use.
Mr. Fisher?
So you're saying that Parks and Rec should pay for some, fire department, everybody should pay for this building?
Yes, all funds.
Well, Parks and Recreation is not a fund. Department of the general
Yeah,
fund.
but you work for the park, for them, right? So you're saying, you know,
They don't have a revenue source.
Well,
they do
it's,
have a revenue source,
Sales tax,
Okay.
For the park.
Corrected.
and you have park fees.
yeah.
I think you might have to look. I think the park fee is specific to parkland and park facilities under the ordinance. Now, you could, but I think
I
that
mean,
was,
you're already taking 200,000 from them.
yes.
I mean, we can raise that up.
I have a general, Mayor, I have a general question, and it kind of relates to what we're talking about, but I just want a clarification. I think I know the answer, but in the budget, we have a solid waste fee. We got money that comes in for a fire fee. We have certain money that comes in that can only be spent for a wastewater mechanism like that for a police department.
Well, I have to back up now.
The
'Cause
question's valid.
we don't have an impact fee. We don't have an impact fee. Many cities that have an impact or an adequate facilities tax, law enforcement is an eligible expenditure of those monies.
And there's no other mechanism that we can employ? I mean, we don't have an impact fee, but we got a fire fund. We got park money coming in.
Court costs,
Well, we can't raise those.
you can't.
What was that, Mr. Minor?
State
That
says
would be
it,
about it.
they say.
As far as I can,
Every time a builder comes in here and builds department, and he has to pay a little bit of money to the Parks and Rec department.
right,
Why can't they pay a little bit of money to the police department?
well, we tried to enact an impact fee.
But it has to be through an impact fee?
Can
We don't
call it something
have an
else?
impact fee right now, but we're still collecting the money for these other departments, is what I'm asking.
I've never,
So that's an old fee that was grandfathered in. See, that's what I thought. I thought that was a state thing, that we can't enact a new fund. But you have the most puzzled look I think I've ever seen on your face, Mr. Minor.
I've never known of a police department to generate revenue. Fire departments have through fire funds.
I've gotten a couple
You have a
tickets.
question, Mr. Fisher?
I don't know if that's true, but I've got a couple tickets here. They've generated some revenue for me.
For the general fund.
Thanks, chief.
They kind of,
Now, there are laws about that too, how much they can generate
Right.
That's right.
on citations of you.
That's right.
Union City got sued over.
All right, let's go back to our question here. I have a motion from Ms. Hummel to approve the additional work of somatic sites, grading, and drainage. Did
Mr.
I
Mayor,
have it?
Mr. Cates, second.
I second it.
Had a second from Mr. Cates. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher opposes. Moving on.
Can I make one more comment?
No.
Yes,
It's
sir,
over.
make your
No.
comment.
I don't mind spending the money and doing the test, but it comes back to our budget and our sales tax. And if we don't have the money to build the town hall, we're spending $11,000 getting, just
Mr.
throwing
Mayor,
it out there.
Mr. Johnson.
just quickly, this is the kind of work that
I
will stand the test of time.
I understand.
It won't go bad if it's 2 or 3 year delay. This is the type of work that will be referenced whenever.
All right, moving on. Consideration of monument entrance sign for the town of Oakland. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Fisher requested this be on the agenda.
Mr. Fisher.
I think the idea was you wanted to do a contest or something?
Yeah, well, some people poo-pooed that, so, I don't know if we're just gonna have to ask, some of our architects to just go ahead and do something and pay the fee of them, or cancel it altogether.
What if, and I'm certainly not an artist, but what if you and I sat down and just did some drawings and shared with the aldermen.
My stick figures would not look good.
I'm good at stuff like that, Mr. Johnson.
What if Mr. Wiggins and I sat down and tried to draw something and just give,
Supervise.
Well, we can try to do something like that.
I'm good at that.
Because I think, a competition, a contest would just have too many people, too many, hands in the pot.
Okay.
I designed stuff for several years through the Boy Scouts. I designed the 100th anniversary logo for this town. That came out of my head.
So, we will ask y'all to get together and bring something back for the board to consider.
yes, sir.
All right, we'll move on then to C. Consideration of establishing a national gas service department with the town of Oakland. I believe this was yours, Mr. Sutton.
I didn't
Well-
put anything on it. I saw the letters. Did they go out?
Yes, we,
Any response?
I've had an email response to my email, which is basically a list of the areas where gas service is currently provided. I think it's on the table in front, I just got it today. I do not have a map, and there's been no response yet to the mayor's letter to the mayor of Somerville. Mr. Ellis has also done some very preliminary research, if you'd like to hear it.
Basically, doing a pretty minor bit of research, and first step, if you remember, I said was define if there was a franchise agreement. I think through the work, we're pretty confident there, one was never executed. He found one in the fifties, I believe,
Yes.
that was drafted, it was never executed. So
Mr. Ellis, I don't want to interrupt you, but what's the significance of that?
that is the very first step. From the reference I've got from the two men that I referenced last week in the meeting, the first step for Oakland to move forward legally, we're under an existing franchise agreement. We cannot take one step forward until that agreement has expired. So that was the first box in my mind to check. Are we under agreement or not?
Okay.
Pretty sure we're not.
Yeah, it'd be the same thing as like your solid waste contract, as long as you're under a current agreement.
I understand.
So that box is checked, so I just need direction from the board. I'll go ahead and tell you, I have a tentative meeting set up for Wednesday morning with a consulting company who could guide us through this. They do maintenance, they do all kind of services. They have many years' of experience. They're actually doing it for the city of Galloway. So they're gonna come in for free, and based on what you guys, what direction you point me in, that's the questions I'll ask them, of what our next steps are, what our options are. Ultimately, I'm thinking, and I don't know, but a feasibility study of some form would be required soon in this process. To get some numbers, to get some idea of what we're looking at. I defer to you for your guidance.
And I just think it's a benefit to our citizens. I mean, we're relying on somebody else to provide us. What if Blue Oval, their growth expanded in that area? And then they couldn't service us, where would we be? You know, if they only had so much gas purchased, and that's bought in advance.
Year in advance, isn't it?
And so my concern, also another thing is, do our citizens pay more than their citizens for gas?
Yes.
Yes. So would it benefit our citizens of us having our own department? And then when we ask about bringing our rate to the same, they said, well, we'll just add it to the bill.
To Somerville's bill.
So it wouldn't have saved the citizens any money. But I mean, we're relying on somebody else to buy gas for our citizens and provide services. And this was mentioned several years ago, and yet we still have citizens that I can throw a rock and hit their property that don't have gas in this town. So that concerns me. And
Can I ask
think
a
we're all-
question?
Mr. Fisher?
Have you also looked at what it's gonna cost us to maintain all that? Taking it from Somerville and us doing everything and employee base and all that?
I don't know enough about it, that's why I'm deferring to this company I'll meet with Wednesday morning, and they can kind of go through the options. And there are multiple options, other than starting our own, there are several options that I don't know enough about to speak on tonight, but I do know two things, and it's obvious you all know. They're not gonna give it up willingly, okay? And it's gonna be expensive. But I feel it's definitely worth looking into.
So it's gonna be a savings to our, community, but is it gonna cost the town more money by hiring people and all that other stuff, and then the savings probably be null.
I don't know, I can't answer
Okay.
that, no, I can't answer that question, I don't really know.
Would the board like Mr. Ellis to meet with his group and then report back to us on what his findings and suggestions are?
That's fine with me. I think we
I
need
don't know
to.
how many customers they got total, I don't know. But the
Well-
question would be, how many of them are on the east side of Oakland at the line? And then, if we got their total customers and how many on the east side, we would then know how many customers we would service to the west. So the expense is gonna be valves and meters.
Possibly a new tap, we may have to make our own tap, which could be $1 million.
I think you done what this for. I think we need to get an answer on it and just go ahead and meet with them, see what you can come up with.
I mean, if we're providing 70% of the customers on the west side, which is my estimate, and we're also providing revenue for 70% of their employees and equipment and everything else.
But we have to purchase that 70% of employees,
Mr. Mayor?
equipment, and everything else.
Mr. Mayor?
It's gonna cost you something to get something, but is it worth it? And you won't know till you get the
Okay.
details.
Of course.
Mr. Johnson?
To follow up on Mr. Sutton's comment, if you look at the growth in their service area, it's almost exclusively in our area. That's me.
So if we take that away, we won't have a Somerville anymore.
Mr.
will we?
Fisher, you have a question?
Okay.
Ms. Holmes?
I've got a question, looking back at the notes that are in the January 17, 2019 Fayette Falcon from our town we had when this discussion was also brought up by Alderman Sutton, that a point came up that if we have to have official communication from an attorney representative, would our attorney, Tom Minor, have to abstain from representatives, because would it be a conflict of interest since he represents Somerville also and representing us? Would we have to hire, if we need attorney communication, would we have to hire another attorney outside of Mr. Minor?
You would want to hire a utility attorney
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
Middleton hired,
It's harder than it looks.
the Branstetter firm in Nashville, Don Scholes was their attorney.
So we would need to
So you would.
put in our budget, they would also have to be hiring an attorney then.
But the thing you gotta realize now, I don't know how much money
Mr.
somebody.
Sutton.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Ms. Holmes, are you through?
I am through, thank you.
Mr. Sutton?
The thing you have to realize on this, as far as attorney goes, is does somebody wanna fight that fight where there's case law that's gonna rule in our favor? This, because whoever, I mean, you can ask for your attorney fees if you win. There's case law, there's a precedent been set and case law to where we're gonna win that. Do you agree?
Presses here, you got the Middleton case, Middleton won.
I mean, so does Somerville wanna spend that money when there's case law present that don't favor them? And so I'm not worried about the attorney fees.
Okay. Mr. Ellis, comment?
One last point of information for the board. Attorney Minor mentioned Don Scholes. We have access to Don Scholes. He now works for TAED, Tennessee
certainly
Associated
does.
Utility District. So we are members of. I can call him, he'll come down, he'll help any way he can.
Nice point, Mr. Ellis.
I think Mr. Ellis should proceed, Mayor. I don't know if you need a motion for that or not.
I think I'm going to ask Mr. Ellis to proceed with this process and report back to the board at the June meeting if possible. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. I'd like to be a fly on the wall when the paper hits the Somerville office, ma'am.
It gets there early. They're in their budget process too.
Okay, we have already spoken about, we will have a budget work session May 30th at 7 p.m. Mr. Gates. So everybody mark that on your calendar,
Bring your books.
and then bring your budget book with you, and your calculators. Is there anything else, Mr. Johnson?
No, sir.
Mr. Case?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Mr. Johnson, 8:22, we split it. Mr. Johnson, 8:15, I'm at 8:30. You think you could,
I'll defer.
Somerville office, would you deliver that? Well, let me